Hey y'all, it's about that time. It's about to go down. Come into the space and in the place. It's about that time. It's about that time. It's 7 o'clock on the dot. I'm in my, y'all know the rest of the words. Or whatever Usher said. I'm on time today. I got wine today. My mic on today. I got my notes today. So come on. Come through. I really wish I could play music, man, but Mark Zuckerberg be hating real bad on me. And I be wanting to play music, but he be hating. So just pull up on the key, pull up on the. Make sure y'all share the video too. It's hot already, y'all. Already it's hot. So while we wait for our friends, cause they be late. So I found this blueberry wine yesterday at Aldi for $3.99. Go to Aldi for wine, y'all. They be cheap and they be hitting for how they need to be hitting. So make sure you do that. I'm excited about this episode. It's part 2 of last week, so we had to do part 2. I was gonna switch to a new topic, something that's really been on my spirit, but I decided to stick with this one because I already had the notes for it. And when I looked at the notes, I did miss some things that I wanted to mention. So there's that. And I always think that this topic is very relevant. So go ahead and share the video if you have not. Y'all see I got my puff. Child. I'm over it already. Yeah. Come on up in here. I know people be late, so I'm gonna give us a little minute before we get started. I was almost late, but then God, okay? So pull up on me. What y'all got going on? Today was a day. Let me pull up everything I need over here. And if you're watching this video back, go ahead and fast forward to where I actually start the conversation. Because right now I'm really just getting set up. I'm giving people some time to pull up before we get started. And I am already sweating under this sweater. But we gonna get through it. Again, let me double check. Because not yesterday. We were not here yesterday. Last week, I recorded a whole episode without having turned on my microphone. So, there's that. But it's on now. It's on. And the reason, because y'all see, like, there's a light. I don't know if y'all can see the light. But there's a light on here that's on whether or not I'm recording. So that's why I was confused last time. But we're about to get to it. It's hot. It's very hot. All right. So this is probably going to be very quick. All right, let's go. I'm ready. Y'all ready? No, we're going to wait till 7:05. I'm going to wait one more minute. And then I'm going to get started because I'm ready to get in. Get in, get out. Get in, get out. This episode is called Get Real With Yourself Part 2. And we're talking about the real you. So at 7:05, I'm about to record and we're going to get into it. I got my notes this time, y'all. Last time I did not. But I'm ready today. My puff was cut off. I was trying to figure out how to adjust my camera so my puff wouldn't get cut off. All right, so let's go ahead and get into it. It's about that time. Make sure I don't have to move my mic at all. And we gonna get to it. All right, here we go. Y'all ready? What's good, everybody? Welcome back to Universal Teas. It's the People's Podcast with your girl Toya. And this episode is called Get Real with Yourself. And this is part 2. Now, before I get into what I'm going to get into, I had to do a part 2 because last week, y'all, I was just speaking my heart out. And I recorded a whole episode and my mic wasn't even on. So I just had to double check to make sure it was on. My mic is on today. Last week, I don't know what was going on. I was recording. I didn't even have my notes. So I was just talking. I didn't really even know what I was talking about. It was a lot, right? But today I got it together. I got some wine that I already been sipping on. This may or may not be my like second or third glass of wine. But we here, okay? So let's get into it. All right. So the idea of this episode, Get Real with Yourself, I wanted to do because I've realized that I am in a very strange place in my life. And strange in the sense that I am in a position that I really have never been in before, right? I'm experiencing things that I haven't experienced before. Relationships are really weird with people around me right now, people that I've known for a long time, people that I've just met. And so I've been trying to figure out, why am I struggling so much? Like, why am I internally struggling so much? And I think that a large part of me struggling right now has to do with me not really being comfortable with who I am when the doors are closed, when the lights are off, when nobody's around, you know what I mean? When I don't have that validation, and not being comfortable with who she is, but also not really knowing who she is in detail, right? I've been spending so much time trying to figure out how to be a great friend, how to be a great employee, how to be a great, you know what I'm saying, sister, daughter, aunt. And I have taken away from just trying to be a great Toya, right? Be a great person for myself. I'm so caught up in other people's opinions of me and other people's thoughts of me and how I'm perceived by other people. And I really just have to get out of that mindset, but I didn't know how. So a lot of what I've been interacting with and a lot of information that I've been getting personally to myself is that I really need to get to know who I am. Like, who is it that I'm presenting to myself? And the way that you do that is not just, you know what I'm saying, looking yourself in the mirror and saying, I love myself. We always have this information of writing affirmations, of telling yourself you love yourself. All those things are very important, but I think it's even more important to go back into really who you are and the things in your life that have made you who you are. The things in your life that you didn't have control over that made you who you are. And that's what I'm about to start doing, right? I haven't done it yet, but I'm realizing that that's what I need to be doing, is really uncovering the things that I didn't have control over that made me who I am. Because those things that affected little girl Toya are still showing up in adult Toya, right? That idea of wanting to please my parents as a little kid is still showing up in wanting to please friends and partners and things like that and bosses in my adult life. So I kind of have to move away from this idea that I have to please people, right? So I'm going to go through my notes really quickly. The first thing that I said, and I mentioned this last week, I said that you'll never be comfortable becoming the new you until you've acknowledged, accepted, and released who you've been. All of the time we say we want to be somebody new. I'm changing into a new person. I want a new start. New year, new me. We say that every New Year's Eve, but we really have to get back to the old us in order to accept the new us. There's this idea of Sankofa, right? Return and get it. You really have to return to what you were in order to acknowledge who you've been, right? You really have to look at what you're accepting, who you were, to kind of figure out who you're going to be, right? And this is people. This is ideas that you've been taught. This is beliefs that you've been taught. These are standards that you've been a part of, right? You really have to go back into all of those things to uncover this new you. The new you can't flourish if the old you is still around and on your shoulder and behind your back and in your ear. You really got to eliminate the parts of the old you that are present so that the new you can flourish. Right? That's just like saying I got a new pair of shoes, but I don't want to take off my old pair of shoes. That's not going to work. That's not going to be efficient. You know what I'm saying? You kind of have to shed that dead skin, just like snakes. In order for a snake to grow, they have to shed the dead skin. It's still a part of who they were, but in order for them to become who they're going to be, they have to shed that dead weight, shed that dead skin. We have to be able to do the same things, right? So I said you can't show up for others, and this was a note that I made to myself, because remember I said I'm really trying to figure out how to show up for myself the way that I try so hard to show up for everybody else, the way that I try to prove how good I am to everybody else, I need to take that same effort and energy and showing up for me, right? So I said you can't show up for others until you know and love all the parts of you. And I underline the word all because we sometimes try to erase the bad parts of us. We sometimes try to erase the things that we know that we've done that are wrong. We try to erase the parts of us that we don't want to address and face. But until you face those, right, the new you isn't really new. It's just who you are now that you've covered up all of the past parts of you with. You can't really be new like that. That's just like saying you new and you fresh every day, but you just putting on clean clothes on your dirty ass. That don't work. You still dirty. You have to change what's deep inside of you in order to get to where you want to be. And I said you'll be inauthentic every single time that you show up because you're not comfortable with who you are. If you haven't sat with all the parts of you, if you haven't addressed all the parts of you, the good, the bad, the ugly, right? If you haven't addressed all of that, every time you show up in a space, it's inauthentic. Every time you start a connection, it's not going to be genuine. That person, those people are not really going to know who you are because who you are showing up as isn't really the person that you've been working to be. You can put in all the work that you want, but until you actually go back to the things that you didn't have control over, you're not really changing. You're just putting on a new outfit. You're just putting on a new mask. You're just putting on a new disguise, right? What is it that you're actually doing to make sure that you're becoming new? And new and positive, new in a way that's progressive to who you are. Because a lot of days and a lot of ways, we try to say that we knew, but we not. We just hid the person that was there yesterday. We just kind of glossed over what it is. Or sometimes when we're saying we're new, we try to show that we're new in a public setting, but behind closed doors, you still talking about people. You talking a good game, but you're not working towards it. You know what I mean? Hold on, let me get some water. But yeah, right? And so I said, in these situations where we're seemingly presenting somebody new, right? I'm showing up as somebody new. I'm a new me. When you're really not, you haven't addressed your trauma. You haven't addressed the little girl. You haven't went and found the little girl that's struggling inside of you and hugged her and nurtured her and listened to her, right? And told her it's okay. And fix the parts of that little person in you that's broken. You're showing up inauthentically. And I said what you're really afraid of, and I'm talking about myself, maybe it's y'all too, you're really hiding from the world and you're afraid of being exposed, right? A lot of us not becoming who we fully are in our greatest extent, you know who you are, even if you haven't addressed it. The ugly parts of you look at you every time you see yourself in the mirror, and you're afraid that everybody can see that. So instead of trying to fix it, you just gloss it over, right? You add a few affirmations to your social media so it'll seem like you're so positive. You might drop a little note to somebody here and there. You might give a homeless person $1 to try to make it seem like you're this good and chivalrous person. But in reality, the little person inside of you is screaming and crying and throwing a tantrum because you haven't addressed him or her, right? And then I said when you've accepted all of who you are, you aren't in fear of any part of you being ridiculed or exposed. If you want to step into your best self, you have to understand that I am my best even with all the mess that I've experienced. I am my best even with the times that I fucked up. I am my best even when the times I didn't feel like it, when I didn't look like it, when I was depressed, when I was sad, when I was broken. I'm still my best regardless of that. You know what I'm saying? And once you address the parts of you that are flawed, because we all have them. Once you address the parts of you that are flawed, you can then move into the person that you're going to be. Okay? Because you're not afraid of somebody saying, oh no, you said you're this type of person, but do you remember back in 2016 when you did this? And it's like, yeah, I did that. I addressed that part of me. I fixed it. Now this is who I am. You want to get to know me, or you want to go ahead and get on? And that's another thing about growing, is you have to understand and be okay with the parts of you that no longer are. Yes, that was me, but do you want to get to know me now? Yes or no? You can either stand here and get to know me now, or you can move around and stay with the dead part of me that I've already let go. Stop being ashamed of your past. Stop being ashamed of your story. Stop being ashamed when you fuck up. We all do. But you have to accept it. Oftentimes when we fuck up, and I do this myself, we try to rush and convince people that, no, I'm not bad, right? I'm actually a good person. When it's like, no, if I can address that I fucked up, I can still be a good person with my fuck up because I know that happened. So me acknowledging it means that I can fix it, that I'm willing to change it. Whether or not you accept it, that's okay. So you can either stick with the part of me that fucked up and stay there, or you can move on with me because I've progressed. Okay? So you really got to understand that it is okay, and we have this idea that we have to be perfect. You have an idea and a picture of who you want to be. You have an idea and a picture of how you want to be perceived, right? And sometimes when we fall short, we convince ourselves that we're no longer worthy of what we want to be. When you fuck up, you're like, well, maybe I'm not a good person. Maybe I'm not a good friend. Maybe I'm not a good worker because I fell short in this area. But it's like, no, you fell short here. Learn from it. Grow from it. Don't let the shit happen again. And even if it does happen again, figure out why. What part of you is allowing this cycle? What part of you is allowing this pattern? If you're not okay with that part of you that's allowing it, then change it. It is your life. You're the only one that has to be comfortable with you. Because when you are comfortable with you, you invite other people that are comfortable with themselves, who are also comfortable with the same things that you are. We oftentimes fuck up when we're trying to fit into things that don't suit us. So you really got to sit and get comfortable with the ugliest parts of you, because that's what's going to take the most time. Of course, I can sit here and say I love myself because, you know what I'm saying, I got a nice little puff, I got a couple degrees, I got a couple careers, I do this on my own, I pay all my bills. That's easy. But when you address the parts of you that are hurting others, that's hard. When you address the part of you that needs to go and apologize, that needs to fix something, that needs to change something because you're not right. That's the part that's hard and takes the time. So focus on those. Right? Everybody's going to love your profile picture because that's the best picture of you in your photo album. But what about those? What about those tag photos that you ain't have no say-so in? You got to love those too. Love the tagged photos of your life. Not just your selfies that you took with the right angle, the right filter, and added the right caption to. Do the same thing with your life because it's okay. It is okay. It's hard. It's difficult to accept that because you know you want to be great. You know you want to be perfect. You know you want to be seen as a good person all the way around. But sometimes you won't be good to some people. And you got to be okay to that. And until you're okay with that, you won't be good to yourself. Okay? What's that? I feel red. And me. Okay? You really have to understand that you're not extraordinary, right? And some of y'all probably like, what you mean? I'm brilliant. You're not extraordinary. We're all human and we're all the same in a certain extent. And so what I mean by that is that none of us are flawless. We all have a story. We all have a reason that we are the way that we are. And you have to understand that you need to give yourself grace. And next week's episode is called Goodness Gracious because I'm learning in a very difficult way that we have to learn to give ourselves grace. We have to understand that a lot of things are about perception, but the only perception that should matter on your healing journey is your own. How do you perceive yourself? How do you describe yourself? How do you love yourself? Because once you do that, nothing else really matters. You got to get good enough to sit in a room alone by yourself and enjoy yourself. When you discover your purpose, you have to understand that you're walking in your purpose not for anybody else but for you. Just like I'm sitting on live with one person right now because this is what I'm called to do. So that's what I'm going to do and I'm okay with it. Right? With all of the bullshit, right? I haven't been having great days lately, but this is what I do. This is what I need to do, whether it's one person or 1 million one day. This is why I'm here. And because I'm doing the work to love the parts of me that would have been ashamed to sit here months ago. There's been times, and y'all know I've been real off and on with my podcasting. I'm proud of myself for being here because I've hugged the parts of me that probably would have canceled today. because I'm not in the mood. I don't have the right headspace. I got things going on in my life. I just don't feel like it. But the part of me that was doing that didn't really love myself, didn't really believe in my vision. The parts of me that was on and off was kind of second guessing or seeing other people doing things and didn't know if this is what I should be doing. But a part of getting real with yourself is being real with the ugly parts of you, fixing it to your degree, to what feels right to you, and moving the fuck on. Okay? Next thing, y'all, I said this isolation, and this is something that I have done a lot of. This isolation and intentional work to reflect on who you are because of your life experiences. This is what's going to make you great. Because anytime you go into a room, when you've looked at all of your flaws, when you've hugged the ugly parts of you, the parts of you that you're ashamed of, that you're embarrassed about, when you've addressed all of those, when you've accepted, acknowledged, and released them. And I think that's a part that we have to understand that we have to do. Yes, you need to hug those parts of you that are fucked up. Yes, you need to address them, but you also have to let them go. Once you've forgiven yourself, let it go. Let it go. Because you holding on to it, that's counterproductive to what you're trying to do. You can't try to be your best self while holding on to your old self. Yes, acknowledge her, love her, but let her go. Okay? You can't hold on to it. Pay special attention to the ugly and painful parts of you. And I kind of just mentioned that before. When you're trying to grow, you have to really pay attention to the parts of you that are not favorable. Think about a flower when it grows, right? The first things to grow on a plant, on a tree, are the roots. Nobody sees that. When you're on this journey to growing, get rooted. Get into the roots of what it is. Nobody's going to see it. They probably won't understand it. It's not going to make sense to a lot of people what you're doing and why. But if you are clear on why you are doing what you do, if you are clear in your roots, if you are clear in your vision, that is all that matters. You need to believe in yourself. And here's me telling my business, right? Even with this platform, I found that I'm always so anxious to tell people what I'm going to do, what I want to do. Yeah, I want to do this. I talked to this person. I planned this out. I did this. When in all actuality, just do it. Just do it. Because at the end of the day, who are you trying to convince that you're going to be great? You or the people around you? Because once you've convinced yourself that you're going to be great, once you've convinced yourself that you're beautiful, once you convince yourself that you're the hardest worker, once you convince yourself that you're the best wife, the best mom, who can tell you that you're not? Get to a place that you've convinced yourself and you believe in yourself. Because at the end of the day, not everybody's going to be in your corner. Not everybody's going to stay in your corner. Sometimes you're going to fall short and people are going to fall off. I'm going to say that again. Sometimes when you fall short, people are going to fall off. Let them. Do what you need to do is right, but let it be what it is. Because at the end of the day, if you've hugged and forgiven yourself, if you've acknowledged what you did wrong, if you've acknowledged where you fell short, now it's time for you to get rooted. Now it's time for you to get in the mud. Now it's time for you to get dirty and gritty and change it. If what happened didn't serve you, didn't feel good to you, change it. Jamie said, forgetting and letting go is the hardest thing for me. I feel like when I let go, I am somehow not sitting in what I did long enough. It's like we're programmed to look at how shameful we are instead of forgiving and letting go. And that's something that I actually am dealing with right now, right? It's like, how long should I sit in discomfort? If I've addressed it, and it doesn't have to be a long process. So once you get used to it, once you get clear on what it is you want and why, these processes become easy. It becomes a process. Just kind of like tying your shoes. Just like your morning routine, your night routine if you have one. It's like, okay, I fucked up. This is what I need to do to fix it. And then I'm going to move on. Oh, I wish I had. Let me see if I could pull up in my notes. There was something that I mentioned to myself. And I was thinking this. Dang. It's not in here. But I was saying, oh, so this is something that I'm going to talk about in the next episode when I was really thinking about kind of when you got to forgive yourself, when you got to sit with yourself, when you got to reflect on who you are. I said you have to give yourself grace, but hold yourself accountable. So none of what I'm saying is just like fuck people. Sometimes people are right. Sometimes you are wrong. Sometimes other people are right. But you have to give yourself grace, but also hold yourself accountable so that you don't put yourself in this position again. Right? Hold on, y'all. Another thing that you need to do is understand that you're going to make mistakes, but have the decency to address them. Because you can't keep making mistakes. You can't keep having these things happen in your life and you don't address them. Have the decency to address them. Apologize when you need to, but also understand that it doesn't have to be accepted. You're apologizing for you. You know what I mean? No one is yours to keep. So sometimes nothing and no one is yours to keep. Not a job, not a person, not a relationship, not a connection. And we have the more that we understand and internalize that, the easier it is. If you're like me, if you're a recovering people pleaser, it's really hard when somebody sees you as different. It's really hard when somebody leaves your life, whether it be through death or any other situation, friends, jobs, whatever the case may be. But you have to understand everything is seasonal. There's a lesson in everything. Nothing and no one is yours to keep. That's your ego. We oftentimes have this idea that just because someone is a part of our lives, that they have to stay a part of our lives. That's your ego trying to control situations when that's not true. The quicker you accept that it's okay for people to leave, for things to happen, for things to change, the easier it is for you to move on with loving you. Because, right, you've done the work to love yourself. You've done the work to be intentional with yourself. You know what your flaws are. You know what you're working on. So why do you need that validation from other people? Right? Because the person that you're trying to convince, the job that you're trying to convince, the spouse that you're trying to convince that you're such a great person, they fuck up too. They haven't been great in every relationship. Even though you might think so, they haven't. So give yourself as much grace as you're giving others. Right? And then the last thing I said is consciously change what doesn't work for your greater good. Once you've gotten rooted and dirty and in the mud about what it is that you want, you have to understand that you consciously change, continuously change. Continuously change what is for you. Continuously change what is not working for you. For you, for you, for you. And I'm pressing that because a lot of times, a lot of the things that we do, a lot of the things that I do, and maybe I'm telling my business and not yours, is to please other people. We want other people to see us in a certain light, in a certain way. But if you want to grow, if you want to be yourself, you have to get real with yourself. Get real with the ugly parts of yourself so that nobody can use them against you. Because at the end of the day, you have to be able to use your pain as your platform. Yes, this happened to me as a kid. I had no control over it. This is what I learned from it. This is what I can help someone with now. Instead of trying to help someone from that broken state from what happened to you. How is the little girl that is hurt from this same situation try to help somebody through a situation in your adult life? You haven't even fixed your own shit. So how you going to help somebody? You might have the best intentions on being a great partner, but you haven't addressed the partner that fucks you over that you're still holding on to. So how can you do that? You don't know how. You don't know how. Right? So, when we address the ugly parts of us, and I'm about to finish up, y'all, these will be the best and the most meaningful lessons of your life. When you get into tough situations, when you get into hard spots, when you're overcoming and addressing the ugly parts of you that nobody knows, you know everything about you. That's why we're so hard on ourselves, because you know the ugly parts about you. But the people that you meet only see what you present to them, which could be the parts that's glossed over. So in order for you to really love yourself, you got to really talk to those ugliest parts because those are the most meaningful. Right? The parts that nobody knows. And until you do that, you can't really accept success and compliments. And maybe I'm talking about myself, but people will tell you all the time, like, oh, you're so smart, you're so talented, you're so beautiful. Why are you worried about that? But it's like, no, you don't really know me. You just know who I show up as every day. But you really got to get in the mud with the person that you see every day. The person that you've lived with for however long you've been alive. The person that I've lived with for 28 years. I have to get nitty and gritty with her. So that I can then accept the good that's to come. If I'm holding on and harboring all the bullshit in my life, I have no open hands to accept the good. to accept the blessings, to accept the compliments. None of it makes sense to me. Even in my fuck ups, none of it makes sense to me, and I can't fully accept it until I've let go of all of the bullshit, right? All right, y'all. No, you saying something, and I mean, I feel like I am, but that's really all I wanted to get in this part 2, and that's why this one is so short as well, because I talked about this last week. There were just some points in my note. You could have just called me, girl, and probably still we could call each other. We about to send some voice memos, because I'm really telling my own business, if I'm being honest, around these parts. But yeah, y'all, those are all the notes that I missed last time. Let's go over them one more again, just to make sure I got everything. This episode was called Get Real With Yourself, and it was part 2. I said you can never be comfortable. You can never get to the best you until you've acknowledged, accepted, and released the parts of you in your past. Every single part. The parts that you're ashamed of, the parts that you may have even convinced yourself to forget. The ugly things that you've done in your life, the times you were a bad friend, the times that you were a bad partner, the times when you were a liar and a cheater. You have to forgive the parts of you that accepted things that caused you to be someone who you don't even recognize. Once you acknowledge those, hug them real tight. Thank you for the lessons, but let it go. Let it go. Because you can't do nothing with them. If you're trying to elevate, now if you're trying to sit in it, cool. Y'all can kick it, chop it up, drink a little bit, chill with them. But if you like me and you're trying to elevate to somebody and something new, you have to be okay with letting them go. Let them go. Because once you've accepted it, once you've acknowledged that it's there, it's no longer yours. Let it go. It's a part of you, yes, but I don't subscribe to that anymore. Just like people, somebody saying that they know me, when they really knew me in middle school, or they really knew me in high school. Hell, if you knew me last year, maybe even last week. Yeah, that's a part of the story. You interested in getting to know me now or no? Because I let that part go. I forgave her. Have you? If not, stay where you at or move on, but we on to something new. We on to something greater. Okay? You can't show up, and this is for my recovering people pleasers like myself. You can't show up for anyone until you have loved all the parts of you, even the ugly parts. And if you try to do that, if you try to gloss over the parts of you that you haven't fixed, you just put a new outfit on it, you're gonna show up inauthentically, and eventually you can only show up with a mask for so long. You can only fake the funk for so long until the real you shows up. Until the real you shows up and is like, hey y'all, what's good? And then that person's going to call you fake and inauthentic, because that wasn't really who you were to begin with. You didn't sit down the parts of you that were fucked up. You still let them dance around in your life. You got to let them go. Okay? That's fraud. Let them go. Because they're going to show up anyway. Okay? What else I said? You're really hiding from the world. When you haven't accepted the ugly parts of you, you're really hiding from the world because you're afraid that the world is going to see the ugly parts of you that you haven't addressed. They can still hold them against you. That's still going to affect you. It's still going to trigger you. Things trigger you because you haven't healed them. Because you haven't addressed them. Because you haven't come to terms with them. You don't have to make peace with them. But let them know you see them. I feel you. I get where you coming from, but I'm going to let you go. Until you've done that, all of that shit, people going to know how to get to you. Let it ride. Okay? The next thing I said, when you've accepted all of who you are, you're not in fear anymore. You're no longer in hiding. Because nobody can come to you and out you. Nobody can come to you and make you feel less than by mentioning something about yourself that's happened before. It's like, yeah, that happened. But let's talk about who I am now. Let's talk about how that person influenced who I am now. Okay? The next thing that we mentioned is it takes isolation, right? You really got to get in the gutter. You got to get in the vault. You got to get rooted. And talk to that person. Talk to those parts of you. And let them know that you see them. But I ain't really walking with you, but I see you. Right? And also remember that the best and most meaningful lessons to yourself and to others are going to be the ones that are painful, the ones that are difficult. Nobody's inspired by someone who's all sunshine and rainbows. You're not really inspired by someone unless you see that they came from a struggle, unless you really hear their stories. That's why we're so in tune, and maybe it's just me, with all of these documentaries about people who are famous and brilliant and millionaires and billionaires. When you hear their story, you're amazed because you've deemed them extraordinary for overcoming all these things when you're just as great. Because you got a story just like them. Some of y'all stories probably worse than the people that we idolize. But the thing about it is they let their stories, they let their pain become their platform, not their playground. They let their pain become their platform and not their playground. They're not just dancing with their demons. They've acknowledged them, released them in a way that created them to be great. Okay? So that's what I'm leaving y'all with. If you want to be great, if you want to be brilliant, get real with yourself. And I'm not talking the parts of you that get likes, comments, shares, and mentions. I'm talking about the parts of you that nobody has even addressed or acknowledged, that you haven't even addressed or acknowledged. Okay? All right, y'all. I told y'all this is going to be quick because I was just going back through the notes that I missed last week. But thank you all for joining me. This has been another episode of Universal Teas, the People's Podcast. I hope to see y'all right here next Tuesday at 7 p.m. Love y'all. Bye. All right, y'all. I'm hot. This was quick. Let me save it. Make sure y'all share the video. Yeah. Thanks, y'all, for coming through. It was a little bald-headed today, but that's fine. I don't mind. I'm about to get out of here and finish my wine. Again, y'all, if you haven't been to Aldi, get you some blueberry wine. It was like $3.99 for the low. Cheers. And I'll see y'all next week.